And welcome to Witch Chat Chats. Come on in and sit for a spell. We're sponsored by Evermoving We Rise Institute, LLC, the Evermoving We Rise Temple, and Saul Ravencraft, the Texas Mojo Man. Woo! And I am your goddess host, Miss Flame. And where is Mr. Saul at? Saul, where are you at?
Here I am,
Saul?
Nikki.
There you go.
I am here. I'm always here somewhere, I suppose.
You're neither here nor there nor everywhere, right? That's what I keep saying.
As you say. As you say.
Oh, so how's life been treating you?
It's been busy. Sherwood ended abruptly, as it does. It's something that you put your heart and soul into for 2 or 3 months, and then suddenly you just stop doing it. That's interesting. It'd be nice if there was some kind of that there is a sort of a party, but it's like a big drunken rave, which is not necessarily my personal energy. And normally our own group kind of gathers together a little bit, but everyone was very busy and scattered this season, so that didn't really happen. We just kind of stopped doing it. And then I was officiating a wedding the next weekend, which I had to immediately jump into. And then I was doing readings at wedding the following week. So it's just been, just jumping from thing to thing to thing. And now I'm trying to produce a show and getting ready for another event. And everything's overlapping a bit. And I feel a little bewildered, but I persist. How about you?
Well, you know me, I'm always busy doing everything that I usually do. I just turned in an article for Witchology magazine for their next issue that's going to be coming out. And I'm also working on the website, which for Evermoving We Rise Institute, LLC. It should be up probably in the next couple weeks. And I've got other things that's stirring in the cauldron, as usual. You know
Nice.
how we always have all these things stirring in the cauldron, and it just seems like we have to constantly get to it,
Sure.
all the time, right?
Yeah. But what else would you do?
Who's at the door? Somebody's at the door, ain't they?
Well, let's find out.
Oh, it's our writer and amateur focus with a specialization in Appalachian folk magic. My sister witch, and also Saul's sister witch, Byron Ballard. How are you doing, Byron?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm glad y'all are too. I think we all have that look about us, like we're doing a little bit too much and doing it a little bit too fast and a little bit too. So I invite all of us and everybody watching today to just take a deep breath and remind yourself that it's going to happen in the time it's going to happen. And we can push the river as much as we want to, but the river's going to move at the pace it chooses to move.
Well, Nikki and I have been talking about this for a little while, that right now the vampires are run amok, and it as grounded as you may be, it's having an effect. the stones are crying out. And it's making everything just a little bit harder. And many of us are, quite frankly, spiritually out of shape because we've had it kind of good for a while in many ways. And now it's harder, and it requires a lot more effort and due diligence. And it's inconvenient, to say the least.
Inconvenient to actually have a spiritual practice. That's interesting.
Well, to have to do it at the level. I akin some of it to technology. As you know, I'm pretty deeply technical.
Yes,
and
you are.
There are a lot of people that don't go as deep as I do, and yet they still have to use technology. And what I find is I can point and laugh just because they haven't put as much effort into it as I have and haven't gone as deep, or I can try to help, which is what I try to do. And I think I think there's a lot of people that just, they've not been exposed to how deep the rabbit hole goes. And it's all very overwhelming.
Well, and maybe they just should get their damn nose out of the rabbit hole and focus on their own stuff. That's how I look at it. So I have to tell you, because you are definitely technologically advanced, Saul, for which I have great admiration for you. But I'm going to give you an example of what an incredible Luddite I am. So I have been trying for about 6 weeks now to get my circle of counsel, which of course had to move everything onto a Discord channel so that we could have some super privacy for the super private stuff we do, which is nil. And I wanted the list of volunteers that we have been accumulating because we're renovating the temple. So the first thing I hear is, oh, well, we've got a QR code. All people have to do is click on that, and then they can volunteer. They can sign up to volunteer or to be on the newsletter. I was like, great. That's great. Where's that list? Oh, yeah, no, I'll find that list for you. Don't worry. Well, then, 10 days go by, and I go, well, I'm still waiting on the list of the volunteers. And then somebody else said, oh, we never really got volunteers with that QR code. And I went, oh, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have 2 clipboards. And at the Beltane ritual on Sunday, I explained to the children what a fucking clipboard is. And I showed them. It holds a piece of paper, and it has a pen that is attached to it with a little piece of ribbon. And if you would like to be on our mailing list, or if you would like to volunteer, you could put your name and contact information on the paper, on the clipboard. And that was because I am so technologically incompetent. And I keep asking people who are more technologically competent to give me the thing that I need. Well, the most recent iteration of it is, oh, no, we do have names and email addresses, but they got dumped into the newsletter portal. And I said, well, look what I got here, 2 clipboards. And I will have those in my possession so that when I need a volunteer, I can scroll my finger down a piece of paper and go, oh, Barbara Jean Sue Fabrine, and here is her number, and here's her email address. So people getting too bogged down in technology makes me crazy when there is a simple way to do it. But no, we got to have a QR code, and we got to have a butt wipe code, and we got to do this. Just could you write it on a piece of paper, and I'll have it with me in a folder in my tote bag.
Right.
That was a long story, wasn't it? Well, I'm Appalachian. I tell stories.
I have thoughts about all that, but that's not really why we're here.
All right, so do you want to hear the divination for today?
Of
Yes,
course.
please.
All right, so the divination for today comes from Winston Churchill, and I quote, "You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks," unquote. So Mr. Saul, what is your wisdom opinion on that?
I don't know what kind of wisdom, but thinking about who Winston Churchill was and what he had to deal with, a good deal of criticism. And if he spent all of his time trying to address everybody's concerns and complaints and points of view and receive their validation, everyone would probably be speaking a lot more German. So, I don't know what your world is like. I receive a lot of input about my life and my goals and what I'm trying to do, and I can't spend all my time trying to turn those people to my side. And I'm probably getting a little more aggressive about that than I have been in the past. But my goodness, people sure do want to give you unsolicited advice, don't they?
Oh, yeah. And I know Miss Byron has her wisdom to share.
About the divination?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's in the pre-show we talked a little bit about community, and I think this really segues really beautifully with that, because there are an awful lot of people that would much rather throw stones than contribute something that's really helpful. I love getting the helpful contributions. The stones, I think I can do without. So as we're moving forward or moving inward or whatever we're doing, it's great wisdom. Churchill was a very wise man.
Mm-hmm. When I was reading that, I laughed. I laughed at that because it is so true. And I have gotten my fair share of stones as well, and I probably will still get stones in the future. And I just look at them and I say, "You missed," and then go on about my way.
It can hurt, though. It hurts.
It can, but I always try to tell myself, it's not about me, it's about them. It's always about them. It's never about you. And the thing about it is, when you start to rise, there are some others that will help you with the rising, and then there are others who will try to keep you down. Those are the ones that throw the stones. And those are the ones that you need to ignore, because they're saying more about themselves than they are about you. And they rather stay in their little bitty comfort zone and not expand to fulfill their passion and their purpose and be aligned with spirit.
I often remind people, if you're going to put me on a pedestal, please make it very, very short. And I want you to grease it up with Crisco. So when you pull me off that pedestal, neither one of us gets hurt. Because inevitably, it's the people that put you on the pedestal that are the most anxious to get you pulled off and show you your real lack of value. So, yeah, I hear you.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, Miss Byron, you have a new book that is out. And what is the title of that book?
It is called A Feral Church. I'm going to hold it up, but I don't think that works very well. Maybe here.
Well,
anyway, A Feral Church, and it launched back in January, and I'm very proud of it, and very just glad to have it out there. I was blessed and lucky. It sold out before its publication date. And so there was a little bit of a lead lag time once it actually happened, once it actually dropped, to have more in the warehouse. So that happens sometimes, and I'm grateful that people bought it in advance. But I have since then I am so deeply involved with relief work after the hurricane that I haven't been able to give it the kind of the attention that I normally would give a book launch. So I'll be diving into that more and more in the next few months. I've got a friend who, the word feral is very popular right now. It's a hot button word. And so apparently on several of these shopping sites, you can get all kinds of merch with the word feral on it. So a friend of mine today sent me a picture of a build cap, a ball cap that said feral on it. And she said, if I got that for you, would you wear it? And I just went, yes, ma'am, I would. That's very sweet. Thank you. So Feral is out there. Feral Church is out there. And I'm going to be teaching classes all year while I'm touring about Feral Church.
So why did you name it that?
I named it that because I have been talking to people literally for a decade. And these are people who are pagan and pagan affiliated people. These are Christian people. These are Jewish people. These are people with little or no religion per se. No, they don't tag into a mainstream religion, but some of them do. And all of them are overwhelmed by the sheer weight of institutional religion, especially if they happen to be clergy in those mainline denominations. It just keeps them from doing the kind of work that they feel their spirituality calls them to do, because they're dealing with layers and layers of bureaucracy that have nothing to do with the Holy Spirit or God or Jesus or Shekinah or anybody, and they're exhausted and they're overwhelmed. And I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to give people a chance to explore the concept of finding your deepest connection with the divine outside of an institutional church. So in the woods, on the city street, at the beach, sitting around a campfire with a dozen good friends, where do you feel that touch of the divine? Where is your feral church? And I've gotten some remarkable feedback about it from people that might surprise you, who are clergy in mainstream denominations of Christianity.
That was the one thing I used to always ask about, especially with people who, when I was a kid, they wanted me to go to church every Sunday, and it wasn't my mother, it was, my friends who went to church, and that was usually the only reason why I would go. But I always used to ask their parents, I said, why does God have to take attendance at a church? I never understood that. I never understood how, because to me, it doesn't matter where you are, whatever deity that you believe in, will find you somewhere, and you can always find them in something else. It's just, you need to be able to look, and you just need to be able to just kind of relax and be able to find that. Hell, they can find you in a shower, they can find you outside in the forest, they can find you anywhere, and
unlike
I never understood why you had to go to the temple to do it every Sunday.
Well, in ancient times, temples were the literal homes of gods. So you built a temple to honor the primary divinity of the landmass upon which you dwell. And it was understood that you were making a house for the god to be in, for the goddess, for the divine to be in. So it was reflective of the concept of hospitality, is that if I want you to be here with your people, and we want you to bless our crops and to bless our children. And it is only polite that we give you a place to hang out while you're here. With the notion being that the divines can be anywhere they want to be. So you're going to make them a nice place to hang out. But that's not true of modern church.
Right.
There's this understanding that, and I think it's an important understanding, that modern churches are for the congregation. They should be for the community, so that you are with like-minded people with whom you can offer hospitality, with whom you can have commonality, either of worship style or of the divines themselves. But there is much about the concept of church that's important to humans. We like to gather in packs and groups, and we like those groups and packs to be non-threatening. And so the concept that you are with like-minded people is very appealing to a lot of people. But what I say about Feral Church is that it's a book, certainly, but it's also the point of a spear. Because what this movement is doing is going into the concept of church as though the Abrahamics have built this amazing structure that has lasted for thousands of years. And in that structure are things like covered dish suppers and taking care of the poor and education. There's all those things inside that structure. There are things like liberation theology. When was the last time you heard anything about liberation theology? It's hugely important right now. They don't talk about it anymore. So here's what we're doing with Feral Church. We're going into that big, beautiful old building, and we're taking out the marble mantles, and we're taking out the carved newel posts, and the copper wiring, and the copper pipes. So we're taking everything useful out of the concept of church, everything that holds community together, coffee hour after a service, making sure there is transportation for those people who do not have it but want to attend. We're taking all of those things out of that, covering all the things that are still useful and valuable.
And with that, we will be right back with Witch Hat Chats. Stay tuned. We are all magical beings. As a solitary practitioner, you forge your own path, growing, evolving, and discovering your power. But the solitary road can be difficult, filled with challenges, setbacks, and self-doubt. What do you do when things bump back? At Evermoving We Rise Temple, our name is our way of life. We understand that spirituality is deeply personal, yet the journey is easier with guidance, support, and community. Here, you'll not only learn to wield the magical tools at your fingertips, but also develop the personal responsibility and confidence to own your magic. In our safe and welcoming space, you'll gain the reinforcement you need to master your craft, surrounded by a magical family that stands strong together. Step beyond the solitary struggle and step into a thriving community dedicated to your magical evolution. Start today. Visit our website, Linktree, or Facebook page. Discover why we don't fit in the box. And coming soon, the Evermoving We Rise Institute, your next step in mastering your spiritual path and deepening your magical practice. The journey doesn't stop here. Are you ready to rise?
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all, and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to texasmojoman.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune.
Hey, it's Saul Ravencraft here at Witch Hat Chats. I am with Miss Flame, and we're not alone. We are never alone. We have with us Byron Ballard, the feral one, who is off in. Where exactly are you? I mean, you don't have to tell us exactly. We're not planning a raid or anything, but what's kind of your world there?
Well, my world here, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. From the place that I stand in my front yard, I can see some of the oldest mountains in the world, and I can look down the hill and see the third oldest river in the world, which is the French Broad. So this is the land that I grew up on. My family has been in this region for centuries, and my immediate family has been in this part of Asheville, which is called the West End, which is right above the river, has been here since the late 1800s. So my daughter was the fifth generation in my family to be in this same neighborhood. Not the same house, of course, but the same neighborhood. So that's where I am. That is the land with which I dwell.
That sounds like a place where a trip to the grocery store requires a bit of planning.
Well, I mean, we are literally in a food desert, but not too much planning. I went to the grocery store today, and it didn't take much. Plus, we grow a lot of our food, too.
Oh, nice.
We don't have a cow, so we do have to go get milk and almond milk and all that. But, yeah, we grow a lot of what we eat this time of year especially.
Very nice.
So, yeah, we're still here working on reconstruction and renovation and relief from the hurricane that hit us at the end of September. That was a mighty wallop, and we are still working on that for sure.
Well, it feels like the atmosphere for recovering from things like that is a little different than it once was. Normally, I mean, in my lifetime, when a disaster happened, a lot of people would contribute, and there seemed to be resource, and it seems like the atmosphere is a little bit more good luck with that right now.
Well, we have been really fortunate here in that we have a culture in Southern Appalachia of helping your neighbor, whoever your neighbor is, helping them out as best you can. And that has really saved us and served us in these last months, because there was forever such a long time there was not communication in and out. When there was electricity reestablished, we didn't have electricity for almost 2 weeks. And then we didn't have potable water coming out of the faucets of our houses from the end of September almost to Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Because the water lines, for the most part, run along roads, and the roads had been destroyed. So we are still missing roads and houses and buildings, but they are slowly coming back. And I have to say that churches in the area have been remarkable, and neighbors have helped neighbors. And we've had Mennonite families come in to help us rebuild, and we had electric line workers come in as far as Canada who helped us rebuild. And the thing that I think many people don't get is that the area that was affected here was an area the size of Belgium. It was a huge area of effect. And in the county that I live in, which is Buncombe County, we lost 40% of our mature trees. 40%,
Goodness
nearly
gracious.
half of our mature trees.
Right.
And we, Mother Grove Goddess Temple, where I'm one of the founders and I serve as senior priestess, we did a fundraiser starting at the winter solstice and running through Imbolc. So about 6 weeks. And we called it Oak and Mistletoe. And we invited people to donate to this. And then we turned the money over to a local nonprofit that plants trees. When I called the nonprofit, which is called Asheville Greenworks, I called them and said, I've got an idea for a fundraiser. And their development director said, so you want us to plant native oaks? And I went, well, we want to do a fundraiser and raise money and then give that to you to help with that. And she said, well, I don't think I understand you. So you want to give us money to do what we do? And I said, yeah, we want to do a fundraiser, and then we want to write you a check to buy and plant native oak trees. And she said, okay, I think I got it. I think I got it. So what do you need from us? And I said, we need you to take the check to plant native oak trees and to allow us to use your name in the promotional material that we are raising this money for you. And she said, wow, I've never had a phone conversation like this before in my life. So you just want to give us money to do what we do. And I said, yes, with the stipulation that they be native oak trees. So it was a delight. I think it was towards the end of February, beginning of March, that I got to write them a check for $5,000 to plant native oak trees. Now, and oak trees are slow growing, so it'll take a long time for that to really make a dent in what we lost. But it just seemed like the logical thing for a goddess temple. We love the planet. We love trees. Maybe we just run a little fundraiser for that. So that was that was an exemplar of how things have been here. Is it if somebody has money, they offer money, and if they have time, they've offered time. And we had someone call us and say, I have 2 almost full gallons of paint. Can you use those? And I just said yes. So we're repainting the inside of our small chapel with donated paint.
Nice.
Yeah. So it is like old time Saul, because we did look after each other. But it's a hard terrain. Even though these mountains are old, it's hard to get to all the places you need to get to. And there were people that were lost and missing. There's still people who are missing, honestly, after all these months. And missing, presumed dead at this point.
Mm.
Yep. Yep.
But it hit you down where you are, Flame, didn't it? You got hit pretty hard.
Oh yeah, we did. We did, and I lost power for about 4 days. I was kind of fortunate, but I'm on the edge of town. So when the town comes back up, we come back up. But, people were fighting over ice cubes.
Oh.
I know about gas. I know about food. Okay, I can get that. I understand that. The food when it comes to every time we have a snow forecast, we always go without the bread and the milk. That's the first things that disappear off the shelves. That I understand. But when people were fighting over ice cubes, I was like, are you kidding me? Ice cubes.
Well, maybe
Really?
they had stuff that they had to keep cold, like some medications have to be kept cold. I don't know.
That, yeah, and I understand, and I understood that, but it was like in that time where you were trying to handle so much.
Oh yeah.
Because when it hit, it literally hit bam, because I have lived here the majority of my life. And I've even been through Hurricane Hugo when I remember when they took big pine trees and then bent them over down and hit the
And
ground both sides, and the trees never broke. To me, that was the majorest storm until Helene got here, and I just thought it was like the rest of the other storms, not a big deal. We'll get through it because a lot of times they end up making it more of a catastrophe than what it actually is a lot of times on the weather. And I was like, okay. But when our electricity went out, I'm like, oh shit. And I went and I grabbed a candle and I made it right quick to do the protection so it wouldn't do any more damage to the house or to the neighborhood around us. And my mother kept asking me, why is there electricity out? I said, Mom, you got to leave me alone for a minute. Let me get this candle up. I said, I've got to get this candle up. And I finally was able to get it up. Because usually me making a candle is very, very quick. But when you have a mother who has dementia, who's always asking you these questions and everything like that, it's like, okay, Mom, we need for you to kind of stop right here and let me finish my work. And once I finished my work, there was no more damage to the house because we already had leaks starting in the house. And I was like, no way. And so, but it was mostly us trying to help our neighbors. We did help each other with especially when it came to powering up our phones to make sure that I had some contact and everything. But there was like 1 or 2 days that we didn't have even our phones. We couldn't call out, and they couldn't call us in. And I live on a street that has a lot of elderly people on there. So I was like, if there was an emergency or something, how can we be able to really get somebody there? And especially with my mother, I was more concerned about that. And we called about the electricity, and they kept telling us, well, it's going to be the next day. It's going to be the next day. And then suddenly it started being 3 or 4 days.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, we can get through this. I even got food poisoning through the thing. Just trying to feed, my mom and me and everything. And it was really a trying time. I mean, right now I'm still dealing with FEMA, even all these months later. So
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I do want to say is that I am very grateful to our emergency workers. I'm also very grateful to the National Guard that came out and helped us. And, I'm grateful to everybody who at FEMA and also to everybody who contributed and helped in. I'm very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very thankful for that. Because if we didn't have all of that, I don't think we would have gotten back as much as quickly as we have.
We're still not back. I mean, the economy of our part of the region is just nil because Asheville downtown was fine. It lost power for a little while, a few days. And it's high enough above the river that there wasn't flooding there. But everything surrounding Asheville was just demolished. And we
Right.
still, it still looks like that, and it still is like that. So a lot of people are choosing to vacation elsewhere. But what it also shows us in Asheville is that if you have an economy based almost solely on tourism and supporting tourism, then when it takes a hit, the whole economy takes a hit. And we would
Right.
be wise to bring in some light manufacturing, some more green manufacturing sort of thing, sort of jobs, and less of, oh, thank God, another hotel. Oh, how wonderful. Now we have another brewery. But to really think about what kind of jobs we could create here that defy the tourism economy. But I don't know that the powers that be, are thinking that way. I don't think they are.
Right, because I mean, we have Chimney Rock and Lake Lure in Rutherford County, and they
Right.
were gone.
Right.
You know, they were absolutely destroyed, and it's still not right up there.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. But they're paying a lot more attention to both of those, and that's good.
Right.
But I mean, my concern right now is not whether a tourist town survives; it's whether people
Right.
survive, and that's my concern. And
that should be the concern.
And attention needs to be paid to that, but there is no money. As of this moment in time, money has been allocated by the North Carolina General Assembly. Money has been allocated by the House of Representatives in D.C., and yet not a penny 7.5 months later has come into this area from either of those allocations. Not a penny. Not a penny. Yeah.
So you wonder where all that money's going to, right?
I wonder why people like Chuck Edwards don't care enough about his constituents to make sure the money gets here. Because he serves on that allocation committee. Imagine that. Yeah. So we have struggled on. We continue to struggle on. We continue to know that there are people whose houses are not right, if they have houses at all. There are people who have left the land that their families have been on for generations because it's too terrifying to think of remaining on it. And right on the heels of that are all the developers from Florida and elsewhere who are perfectly happy to buy for pennies on the dollar land that a year ago would have cost much, much more. So that's where we are. We are still deeply in the throes of a horrendous natural disaster. They refer to it as our Katrina, if that tells you anything. And frankly, the parts of the Gulf Coast that were hit by Katrina, they're never going to be right again either. Right. So none of that's ever going to be the way it was. There are opportunities to make it better, but whether we will take those, I do not know. I wish I did.
Yep, I do too. All right, that was a downplay.
That was a downer. I'm Debbie Downer all the time, girl. All the time.
So, where can our people be able to find you, Miss Byron?
They can find me at my website, which is myvillagewitch.com. They can find me. My socials are Facebook, Twitter, X. I'm on Blue Sky again as Byron. I'm Byron Ballard everywhere. And Instagram, which I am learning to use. I've had an Instagram for many years since Selena Fox, of all people, forced me to get an Instagram account. I really don't know how to use it. Facebook is the one I use the most. So I'm learning Instagram. I'm learning how to do videos and all of that. So they can get me in all those places. I'll be touring. I'm going to Pagan Unity Fest at the end of this month. I'm going to return to Mystic South. I've not been there in several years. I'll be at Starwood. I'm doing several herb conferences this year. And yeah, that's me on the road. And they can get my book wherever they get books.
Right. And we have all that in the listings for everybody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you for coming on, honey. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Always a pleasure. And to see how big Saul's beard has gotten. It's exciting.
It is its own creature.
Yeah. Do you use beard oil on it?
Not as much as I should, but a little bit, yeah. And I've got a, shampoo that I use, and
Special beard shampoo?
no, it's that purple shampoo to help maintain the silver and not get it to yellow out, but it's conditions and all that. So yeah, it's this whole ordeal.
Very nice.
Saul's gone fancy. That's what we got to talk about next time you come on.
It's like having a cat. There's just stuff you got to do if you're going to keep it.
All right, so that's all for our show today. So embrace your power, support your community, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, friends, and yourself safe, and have an absolute magical week.